is first thing, so I'm a bit of a mess. Last night I watched the news for an hour, which is not something I normally do, but with the Georgia thing that's going on, I thought that I'd monitor it for an hour each night, and it's a good job I did, because I got some live news casts, which we're now going to follow, with what was said in the English news. It's probably already been posted, but I think it's best to look at this propaganda for what it's going to be.
In the Georgian capital, Tbilisi. Thank you very much for joining us here on BBC News.
Thank you for inviting me.
How do you respond to Moscow's recognition of South Ossetia and Abkhazia as independent states?
Well, it's an attempt to legalize blatant act of international aggression, unheard of since Second World War, because that was last time when totalitarian big powers in Europe had tried to withdraw the map of Europe. This is a blatant attempt to legalize the results of ethnic cleansing Russian troops are continuing to commit right now as we speak, and that have been committed during the past several years. I have to remind you that from the region of Abkhazia, for instance, 85% of the population had been expelled prior to this. So the point here is that this is legally legal nonsense. Of course, it's a non-fact legally. On the ground, that in reality it's a huge challenge to the whole international community. Georgia will never reconcile with it, neither will anybody among responsible states, and we'll do our best together with the world to roll it back and to contain Russian aggression.
Do you accept, though, you have lost those regions?
No. Russia occupied Georgian regions. That doesn't mean Georgia lost them. It simply means that Russia, with its 80,000 soldiers, more than 3,000 tanks, came on false pretenses into the sovereign country and tried to occupy its region. Did Georgia lose this? Of course not, and of course we'll roll them back. Like they were thrown from Afghanistan, like they ultimately had to leave Eastern and Central Europe and to unleash the control there. And that was Cold War. Soviet Union was much more powerful, and here we have Russia that is, I guess, euphoric because of high oil prices, but it doesn't have anything close to the resources that the Soviet Union enjoyed in those years.
Russia says you started this. Did you not make a miscalculation in going into South Ossetia rather than letting the status quo stand?
This is an absolute rubbish. Russia has been preparing for months and months. And the point is, you cannot, just in matter of reaction, in matter of minutes, if even what they are saying has been true, which is not, we responded to their tanks rolling in. But how could they mobilize 3,000 tanks, 80,000 soldiers in response? This kind of invasion takes lots of months to prepare. We knew they've been preparing it. They've been menacing us with this. They've been menacing the world with this. Nobody wanted to heed our complaints that they are doing that, but that's the fact of life. They said they came in to stop genocide, and they spoke about 2,000 deaths. Now even the Russian government say that their estimate of the casualties is less than 5% of their initial estimate. So they came of false pretenses. They came in, after many months of preparation. They came claiming that they are coming to stop a so-called genocide, and they committed in the broad daylight. And they are still continuing to commit ethnic cleansing, throwing out the remaining population, destroying the villages, killing and raping and looting people. And this is not my blame game. You can ask international organizations on the ground. They've already confirmed all of this, and unfortunately more and more horrible facts are surfacing up. This is 21st century brutal invasion and 21st century large-scale ethnic cleansing. How can the world allow them to get away with this? And how can the world allow them to blame victim of the aggression for the start of the whole thing?
How do you want the West to respond to this now? What can the international community do? Russia has made it absolutely clear it is not bothered about being cast into the cold by international institutions.
They don't really mean it. They might say whatever they want, but they care a lot. They buy houses in London. All their bank accounts are in the UK and Switzerland. They send their kids for education to the West. These are not Soviet-type, Brezhnevian-type leaders. Brezhnev only collected Mercedes-Benz cars, and he didn't have anything that connected him to the world. These guys out there in Moscow care a lot. Remember, they have two things they value: their xenophobic nationalism and their money in the West. And if they can get away with the xenophobic nationalism and still keep money and their comfort in the West, they will do the both. But I think this is high time for the world to respond the right way and show them the cost of what this kind of absolute obnoxious illegality brings to the perpetrators of this
very
illegal
briefly,
acts
because
and crimes committed.
we're about to lose our communication to you, but how do you think the world should respond? What do you want the world to do?
I think two things. I think they clearly should make a very strong legal case and not to allow them to get away with this, incur some serious legal repercussions on that. And second, help us to rebuild Georgia, make it stronger, overcome this crisis, and integrate Georgia very fast into European institutions. Georgia proved that it's a civilized European peaceful country with very modern society, that open society, democracy, that values freedom, that is willing to stand up for its own freedom and for European values here. And I think this is important to reward my people that had suffered so much. We are not just one ethnic, it's a multi-ethnic society based on the rights of all ethnic groups, democracy, human rights, and I think the West and the Europe that's based on the same values, the free world based on the same values, should back our bid to become part of these wider international institutions, part of the free world.
Is America delivering arms to Georgia? That's what Russia says is happening.
America what?
Delivering arms to Georgia.
I think what, America and the others, I think this is all about our mutual, values. This is, we mirror.
But is America actually helping Georgia to rearm itself after effectively destroyed your military infrastructure?
Well, I think first of all, we kept most of our military infrastructure. We kept our army, and despite some casualties, most of the army is intact and it has high morale. A and B, no matter, how can you rearm 4.6 million country against a country of 150 million people that has nuclear weapons? This is nonsense. This is taking away the thing. It's like, Stalin Soviet Union complaining that somebody was arming Finland that was weakened to its aggression. Let's be serious about this. We cannot compete with the whole Russian strength militarily, but certainly Georgia should be able to protect and deter any further acts of aggression. Georgia should be able to live in a secure world and to be able to avoid in the future anything of this nature for the sake of its own future and the future of the region.
So Georgia is rearming. Because the Russian point is that your country is rearming and you are preparing for another assault on South Ossetia.
I think it's ridiculous to respond. It's ridiculous to respond to this claim. I think right now what the world should focus on is, helping Georgia to overcome huge humanitarian disaster and crisis, to stop ethnic cleansing, to help Georgia to pull itself out of this economic nightmare scenario, and to safeguard territorial integrity of Georgia. And I think that's the issue. And if you want to take and discuss further the arguments of shameless aggressor, people who don't care about human rights, people who don't care anything about that is human and normal and has anything to do with modernity, that's another choice. But the reality today is very different. The reality is that we are under occupation of very brutal force that I think has very little in common with 21st century values.
You are facing questions at home about the fact that you went into South Ossetia. Do you think you made a miscalculation?
We didn't go into South Ossetia. We've always been South Ossetia. We've always controlled most of it. Town of Tkhinvali was controlled by Russian generals at the moment of Russian invasion, and Russian tanks were coming in. The only issue we had there, whether we should have resisted those tanks or surrendered. There is no responsible democracy, however small, that would surrender outright. That's not the way my people, would act it, would support any government that would announce outright surrender even to this brutal force. And that's as simple as that. The point is that Russians came on false pretenses. They claimed that they were stopping some Georgian attack. Then they spoke about many victims. Then they themselves downgraded the number of victims dramatically, less than 5% what they initially claimed, and even that were not confirmed by impartial international organizations, but they themselves killed really lots of people. They burned down the whole residential areas. What about the region of Abkhazia? There was not a single Georgian soldier in proximity. And they attacked the upper Abkhazia and threw out every single Georgian from there with vacuum bomb and SS-21 and SS-26 missiles. Shot from missiles from the Black Sea. this is outrageous, and the world somehow neglected that one as if that didn't exist at all. I think that truth will come up, and I would think it will.